TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time for the Breakfast Bankroll / Tea Time Wagers. PGA off for 2 weeks, but we got to have the star, someone that goes way, way back. This is our second full season of doing shows, and we talk backstage for days, weeks on end about the fall golf, the President's Cup, and of course NFL. And Brady has an amazing podcast out talking about the circa, the contest, the weekly, the thought process, and does a lot of work as well with Sports Grid. So 1 + 1 = 3, and that's a field goal, so why not? So we're proud to have Brady back, not just through the regular season of golf, for the fall. So we got Brady on every Wednesday instead of the afternoon time. We're moving him up to 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. his time. So he gets up early anyways, an extra cup of coffee or who knows, a shot of espresso. He'll be ready, I know. So, but first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnership. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It's free. I promise myself, Zach, Travis, Amber, Jay, the rest of that team will take great care of you. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets, the team, the family. Austin, my delivery guy, the greatest guy in the world. If he can't catch me on the Cape, he catches my daughter in Southie. So thank you, Austin, for your Labor Day delivery. We couldn't be more grateful. So, and third, but not last, of course, Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Terry Smith, good friend, Atlanta based, Georgia Bulldog, Atlanta Braves, Atlanta Falcons. He will be on periodically to talk Atlanta sports and foremost chops, lamb, seafood, lobster tails. Who doesn't like that? So we're super stoked here. So without further ado, the one and only Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, good Wednesday morning to you. Yeah, I'm on here a little earlier than normal, but I like it, man. Let's get our day started with a few ways to make some money this week.
Well, we talked since January. We saw this evolving. The world of Scotty playing for second, Tiger-esque. Xander Schauffele says, "Hold my beer." Wins not one but two majors, and of course, me being a big Xander fan, I'm like, okay, now we can start talking about Player of the Year. Well, Scotty Scheffler not only says, "Hold my new child, hold my beer, I'm going to go get myself a gold medal and win another $25 million. A weekend that we were hoping for excitement, and Scotty kind of sort of shut that door just on Thursday alone.
He sure did. I mean, I said that after he did what he did on Thursday, he shot the low round of the day. You had a couple guys out there that shot 66. Scotty shot 65, did one better. And like you say, pretty much shut down the tournament on Thursday. I think after Thursday's round, he was about minus 400 to win it. He went off at about, plus 125, plus 135, something like that after Thursday's round, all the way to minus 400. And then he followed it up with a round on Friday that was nearly flawless as well. And I said, okay, here's the test. He's gone along so perfectly for 36 holes now he's probably going to sputter for a minute. And if Xander Schauffele and Colin Morikawa, who were basically, in second and third place at that point, if these guys can't capitalize and take advantage of that slip when Scotty has it, then this tournament is over. And sure enough, he did have that slip on Saturday. I think he went through about 12 holes where he was basically like even par, maybe even one over. And then he caught fire, the last 6 holes or so. I think he shot 3 or 4 under. But for, well over half the round, he was just very much in neutral. But so were Schauffele and Morikawa. They could not capitalize, and this golf tournament was over, and Scotty ran away with it. And like you say, like we talked about, very anticlimactic season finale for the PGA Tour. They've got to figure something out that's better than this system, and it's very, very difficult because sometimes you do get some drama. It sets itself up for more often than not. You're not going to get drama. But golf and playoffs are a tough marriage. It's hard to form a perfect playoff, quote unquote, playoff system in the sport of golf. But I hope that this year's tournament sent a message to the PGA Tour that, look, this isn't great. Now, Scotty, on the other hand, obviously deserves to be kind of the season-long champion. I think we would all agree with that. You and I both liked Xander last week. He was such a horse for that course. Even if he was to win the FedEx Cup, I still felt Scotty was the player of the year. But, so I think there's a problem with the Tour Championship itself, just the way it's structured. Playoffs and golf are a tough marriage. But Scotty, boy, he did it again. I thought he firmly put his foot down and said, I am clearly the player of the year with what he did in France, coming back from 6 shots off the pace on the back 9 to win the gold medal. And then he just put an exclamation point on it here, collecting another $25 million. It was in 2023 that he had the most money ever won in a PGA Tour season, which was over $21 million. He just almost tripled that number by winning $62 million, over $62 million this season. And, you talk about it being Tiger-esque. People go back to the 2007 season for Tiger Woods. Look what Scotty did. He won the Masters. He won the Players' Championship. He won a gold medal. And he won the FedEx Cup. And oh, by the way, for good measure, he also spent a morning in jail in Kentucky. What a season. And he had a kid, like you mentioned. Boy, remarkable, man. And I just saw announced earlier this morning, we will have Scotty and Rory teaming up here in Las Vegas. I assume it'll probably be at the Wynn Golf Club. Scotty and Rory versus Bryson and Brooks. Live against the PGA. I assume, again, that's going to be at the Wynn Golf Club in December. For some sort of little charity match that we'll get to watch probably over the holidays.
I can't wait for that. Shout out to Terry Smith. We gave you the big intro, Terry. Owner, CEO, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Go Dogs. Georgia looked phenomenal, Terry. Opening week will be a beast in the SEC for sure. You got Texas to look out for and a couple others. That Ole Miss team. And our next guest, Tyler Betts, will be talking, Tyler Wyatt, excuse me, big Tennessee Vol fan. They could be interesting too. But Terry, thank you so much. If you're not following Terry, head on over to Facebook, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood, or follow Terry at Terry Smith. He'll take care of all your steaks, chops, and all that good stuff as well. Good morning to Amber as well. Great morning. Glad everyone has joined us here. Brady, we talked backstage before we went on to Sports Grid. Is the PGA more infatuated with getting the quote-unquote top 30 players for that final weekend? I talked to you about maybe setting up a match play tournament where the top 10 sit the first round, 11 plays 30, 12 plays 29, have them face off, and then you just do highest versus lowest. Now, I know the naysayers will say, well, geez, that's just one round. So, for instance, Scotty's blade is cold as ice. and he slept on his shoulder wrong. So number 27 in the world knocks off Scotty. This is not fair. But I think that would be some drama, some excitement. Who doesn't like match play?
Yeah, no, I love match play. Match play is fantastic. And we'll get some here at the end of the month for the President's Cup. I know we'll talk about that in just a moment. But no, I think some form of match play has to figure into this. It's such a tough nut to crack because you have to reward what these guys have done all season. That, Scotty Scheffler was number 1 in the FedEx Cup points rankings. Number 2 was Xander Schauffele. Number 3 was Matsuyama. Let's see, Morikawa was up there. Now, Keegan Bradley advanced way up to the top because he won the week prior in Colorado, but that's not necessarily fair. If Keegan Bradley ended up winning at East Lake and winning the FedEx Cup, is he really, quote-unquote, the season-long champion, having one win and not having finished top 20 in the last 3 months? No, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, there's got to be some system where you give the guys that have performed all season long their just due, and they get to start off with some sort of advantage, like you talked about, maybe a bye week or a bye round, if you will. They get to sit out the first round or something like that, and then you get into a match play. It's really hard to figure out. But what we have currently is probably the best system that we've had in a little while, but it's still completely imperfect. And you end up with, I really love the last 3 weeks, the Wyndham Championship, the last regular season tour event, when guys are trying to get into that top 70, that's very exciting. Then you go to Memphis, the FedEx St. Jude, the top 70, and they're trying to get into the top 50. Great golf course that the guys love, very challenging. That's fun. Then Colorado this year was great. Guys hitting the ball 4 miles at elevation and, having to adjust to the altitude and everything that was going on there. Just a beautiful property. That was a lot of fun. Trying to get into the top 30. And then, ho-hum, the top 30 is not that fun. It's just, and it's hard to bet, the staggered strokes and the starting strokes, and then the market without the strokes. And, Scotty almost won that too. Colin Morikawa ended up winning the low 72 hole score market at East Lake. And that's confusing for people too. So, yeah, I love everything leading up to it, but something's got to be changed for for what is the grand finale of the season. And it's very much of a challenge because, like I said, first and foremost, golf and playoffs are a pretty tough mesh.
I talked about this all year after the Masters, after the tweet came out about Oberg and his knee. And listen, he had a couple opportunities, a couple weekends, a couple Sundays right there, and he couldn't close the deal. Now came out early this week, going to go in, get that thing cleaned out. Man, he was I don't want to say a money eater because the kid is phenomenal. He is a star. He's so fun to watch. Just nothing. It's just like the pressure rolls right off of him. But in the back of my mind, in the middle of the season, in the latter part of the season, I kept thinking of the knee. You're an avid golfer. At some point, if you got a little tweak or something there, it does come into play here, Brady.
Yeah, I hope that wasn't the case on the 14th hole or so at Castle Pines a couple weeks ago when we had him at 25-1 and he dumps that ball in the water right when it looked like he was about to make a charge and absolutely challenge Keegan Bradley for that championship. He dumps a 6-iron in the water on a par 5 that he had eagled the past 2 days in a row. It's hard to say. I mean, it's like Jordan Spieth's wrist. They talked about that being more of an issue than he led on about and really was a hindrance to him all season. You couldn't necessarily tell that it was a problem for Oberg, but maybe it was. I don't really know the answer to that, but you're right. I love the kid. He's maybe my new favorite player. And you're absolutely right in saying it looks like the pressure just, rolls right off his back. He plays so carefree. He's always got the smile. He doesn't take a lot of time. He gets over the ball and just grips it and rips it. And I just think he's a joy to watch, and he's so good. I mean, the swing is so pretty. He hits it far. He hits it straight, and he's got a pretty darn good short game. The chipping could use some work, but he's a very good putter. So, I mean, if he gets his scrambling game in order, yeah, he's going to win a lot here in 2025.
So a couple weeks off, and then we get into the fall golf. You had mentioned here a little carrot here about the President's Cup. Give everyone a little idea of what to expect for the President's Cup.
Yeah, the captain's picks just came out on Tuesday. Jim Furyk, controversial in my mind with the selection of Max Homa, who has been god-awful ever since, say, the West Coast swing. The last 3 months or so, 4 months on tour, he's been one of the worst players of those top players, if you will, okay? Of the top 30, 40 players, he's been one of the worst, and so I don't know why he all of a sudden deserved a spot on that team. I understand he was pretty clutch at the Ryder Cup last fall, and that certainly earns you some points, but he just hasn't been in good form. And then the Canadian side, opting for Mackenzie Hughes over Cam Davis of Australia. Maybe a little bit of home cooking there. Mike Weir, the Canadian, and with the tournament in Montreal, they went for the Canadian and Mackenzie Hughes, who's a great player, but I thought Cam Davis was certainly deserving of a spot there on that team. The United States is going to be a heavy favorite to win the President's Cup. It's at the end of the month, September 24th, 25th-ish, 29th. I can't remember the exact date, like the last week in September, at a very difficult golf course in Montreal. The Canadian presence will be heavy. Mike Weir is your captain. I think that's an advantage for them, certainly. But the United States, it's Scotty and it's Morikawa and it's Wyndham Clark and all the Finau. And then the international team is led by Hideki and Adam Scott and Sun Jae Im and Siwoo Kim. And then a lot of Canadians, Taylor Pendrith, Corey Connors, that type of thing. So, yeah, on paper, it looks like the U.S. has a decided advantage, but hopefully we'll get something really competitive. Hopefully being there on their home turf in Canada will help the international side. 2 weeks prior to that, about 10 days from now, we'll start up the fall schedule on the PGA Tour, and we head to Napa, California, the wine country, for the Procore Championship. Used to be the Fortinet. They've got a new sponsor there, but I was actually on Sahith Theegala last year when he won that, his first PGA Tour win. We'll see if we can follow up by hitting another pre-tournament outright there. But those are the only two events for September. And then we go to a full schedule in October. We'll have 4 events, one each week in October, and then 3 events in November. And then when we get to Thanksgiving, we're pretty much done until January when they tee it up at Kapalua in beautiful Maui, Hawaii.
Week 1 NFL, brand new podcast. We got ourselves, 7-8 minutes to talk week 1. Circa, congrats as always. It's kind of one of those overlay, and then they blow right by it. Hats off to Jeffrey Benson, Derek Stevens. Week 1, tomorrow, Baltimore, chip on their shoulder, hosted Kansas City. Winner goes to the Super Bowl, obviously. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore. I don't know what they were thinking that day. That first quarter was probably the worst quarter I've seen them play in a long, long time. I mean, Kansas City had that game won in the first quarter. Thanks for playing. Friday, Brazil, where all the players are told, don't leave the hotel. Families, the players are telling their families, don't bother coming here. Any initial thoughts on those first 2 games? Any leans, any likes? I mean, I've talked to a million people. Opening day, big spotlights, play the unders. But you got some high-octane offenses here, obviously, with Baltimore and Kansas City, and then Friday with Philadelphia and Green Bay.
Yeah, maybe some first half unders at the least. I mean, you know how primetime games are. We've had a trend for I don't know how long, at least a few years, if not more, where these primetime games are staying under the total. And if you're going to play that trend, you want to wait as long as possible because typically the public gets involved. They want to see fireworks. They want to see, excitement. And they run to the window and, it's Thursday evening, it's Friday afternoon, whatever it is. Oh my gosh, there's a game on tonight. Yeah, I'm going to put a few bucks on the over. I want to see some points. So wait and let that number get inflated as much as possible and bet the under late. I don't think that's a bad strategy throughout the entire season for primetime games. There are threes out there. There are threes in favor of Kansas City. I think I did see some threes pop on the Philadelphia Eagles, but there's also 2.5s on both Kansas City and Philadelphia. And, in this case, I think it is so much about the number. There's people out there that want to take the Baltimore Ravens plus the 3, take the Green Bay Packers plus the 3. I completely understand. The other side of it is people that want to lay the 2.5 with the favorite, lay 2.5 with the Chiefs. Certainly don't lay 3 with the Chiefs, or don't take 2.5 with the underdog. Come on, people. So, you can make a case, I think, for either option. I prefer laying the 2.5 with the favorite. I think the Packers are, their season win total is 9.5. I think they win 9 or 10 games. I think that's exactly where they're going to be. They kind of caught fire in the second half of the season last year. I think some of that fire is going to cool off. I think other parts of their game are going to heat up. And in the end, I think they're going to be about neutral. In that division, I think Chicago, Detroit, and the Packers can all win 9 or 10 games, and it's going to be whoever gets to 11 or 12 is going to win that division. And I think it could be any one of the 3. Detroit certainly has the favorite, to be that team. Chicago, the underdog. But I think it's a fairly much of a coin flip between one of those 3 teams. And then with the Eagles, they really had the slide in the second half of last season. They were a little bit fraudulent early on, and then they were exposed later in the season. I think they bounced back. They did a lot to improve their team. If you just look at some of their numbers, they are expected to progress towards the mean versus what they did in the second half of last season. So I think the Eagles laying less than a field goal, and I haven't bet either of these games, Jeff, full disclosure here, and I don't think I will. I'm probably going to pass. If I had to do anything, if you force me to make a play, I'd probably take the under in both of them, just because that's a strong, trend that has been going on for primetime games, and I certainly understand it. On the other game, the Thursday night game, I think last year, everybody in the NFL blew it. Last year was the year to catch Kansas City. They were not that great. 13 games in, they were 8-5, and they were, a long shot to make the playoffs. Everybody let them off the hook. That was a down year for the Chiefs. They were -11 in turnover differential. They were like -23 in penalty margin. I mean, you just look at those numbers, and how in the heck did they make the playoffs, let alone win the Super Bowl? I think they're better this year, so look out for this team. Meanwhile, Baltimore, they blew it. They had Lamar Jackson healthy for every game last year. How many times can you say that in the last 5 years? They were +12 in turnover margin. They were +23 in sack margin or something like that. So I think they're due for a slip. I don't think their receiving core is great. Derrick Henry's 30 years old. He's not really doing it for me. I think Baltimore slips this season. I think Kansas City challenges absolutely for a 3rd straight Super Bowl. So I think the Chiefs are the better team here, and I'd lay the 2.5 with them.
Couple minutes left here, Brady. Circa Survivor. The train wreck initially, obviously, the 40%er was going to be Cincinnati this week against the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett will start. The Patriots offensive line, I'm telling you, I've seen better high school offensive lines than what I've seen with this Patriots team. New coach with Mayo, new system, yada, yada, yada. Number was as high as 9.5 because of the Jamar Chase. He's trended not to play now. He's waiting for that extension on his contract. I've seen it dip to 7.5. The Bills, 6.5 point favorites over Arizona, who's a trendy upward team. Kyler Murray's healthy. They drafted Marvin Harrison, great tight end with Trey McBride. Drafted a good RB2 with Trey Benson. Buffalo, no Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis. Draft Keon Coleman. Those are the 2 headliners. How do you wrap your head around week number 1 in the Survivor contest?
Well, Jeff, you talked about our podcast, and thank you very much for mentioning that. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show, we record that on Friday afternoons. It's up YouTube, everywhere you get your podcast by Friday evening, and you'll want to take a listen to that before you submit your picks for both Circa Survivor, Circa Million, and the Westgate Super Contest on Saturday. And we have, as a part of that contest show, our team, James Salinas, Mike Pritchard, and myself, we have 3 Survivor entries. We have an entry into the Super Contest, an entry into Circa Sports Million, and 3 entries into Survivor. So I believe we will have both the Bills and the Bengals on 2 of those 3 tickets. And I don't know if we'll double up with one team. I think that third team is going to be maybe something like the Chargers or the Buccaneers. Probably one of those 3.5-point favorites, if you will. I think our strategy is like, okay, let's take one that's obvious, maybe one that's the second most obvious, and then maybe one that's kind of in the weeds a little bit. We'll see how it goes. We haven't had our discussion yet. It's only Wednesday. The roundtable discussion begins today. We hope to have a firm decision by showtime on Friday, where we will release our pick, and we want to be as transparent as possible about that stuff. We're not going to come back and pull a switcheroo on you. What we say on the show on Friday, we hope that will absolutely be our pick, barring anything crazy, like this guy getting injured or arrested or, God forbid, anything crazy like that. What we give out on the show is most likely going to be our selection when we eventually go to the window.
Well, we can't wait. I will definitely be watching and listening. But as we always wrap up here, Brady, the stage is yours. Tell them where they can find all your work, your written work, your schedule on Sports Grid, your podcast, etc.
Yeah, I'll be on Sports Grid later this evening at 7:30 Eastern Time, and then also 10 p.m. Eastern Time, talking some football, previewing Week 1. And then golf, of course, will pick back up in a couple of weeks in Napa, writingforgolf.com and PGAtour.com, and you can get all those updates on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer, including updates on the football contest show, which you won't want to miss. We record that on Friday afternoon, and it'll be available there, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts on Friday evening.
Brady, we can't thank you enough. God bless you. Best of luck in Week 1. Let's get a 3-0 right out of the gate in the Survivor Contest. We'll come back next Wednesday at the same time. Talk how you made out and where your head is next week. How's that?
Sounds great. Have a great rest of your week, Jeff. Thank you.
You as well. The one and only Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. You can go find him there as well. Sports Grid does amazing work for the PGA. The best in the business. And if you're not following him, shame on you. We had a great regular season in golf. And then this year, what we're going to do is we're going to play it back. We're going to talk President's Cup. We're going to talk fall golf. And, of course, the second half of the show, we'll always be talking some NFL. So without further ado, we're going to take a couple commercial breaks here. And our next guest, the one and only, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. See you soon.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. I'm back. We're anxiously awaiting our second guest, Mr. Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets. We're going to talk some poker. We're going to talk some SEC football, the Vols. This gentleman, good friend and colleague. He is second to none. I enjoy our poker talk as well. Grinds it with the best of them here, and we're just waiting for him to show up here. So give us a couple seconds there. NFL kicks off again tomorrow, and Brady, I think, said it so well and perfectly. It's the fact that, again, you're looking for the right numbers. For me, if they're going to give me a flat 3 on the Ravens tomorrow night, I personally will spend the extra 10 cents and I would take the Ravens plus the 3.5. I'll buy the hook there and I'll sprinkle a little beer and pizza money on them to win the game outright. I like the Ravens. They are fast starters. I'm not saying Kansas City will have a Super Bowl hangover here, but do remember, first game of the year last year, the Lions came in 6-point underdogs, not only covered that game, but beat them outright there. So it'll be interesting to see where that number closes. 2.5. If someone says, hey Jeff, I really like Kansas City at 2.5, what I would suggest is I would go to the window and I would play the Kansas City money line. And if it gets a little too steep for you, what I always suggest to everyone that watching and listening that wants to pay attention, if you're $100 better, just hit the risk button. Risk your normal $100. You'll profit a little less, obviously. You'll profit a little less because you're not laying the 140 or 143, whatever the money line is. But again, if Kansas City does lose outright to the Ravens, well, you won't get beat up with the 140, 142, wherever the number is there. So again, that risk button is your friend, guys. So don't be shy. And there, as I am. Oh, we got a 30-second countdown to Mr. Wyatt. And for the second game, I don't know what's going to happen in Brazil. I really don't. I know there's a game on Friday night. I know there's 2 high-octane offenses. But again, I really don't know what to expect, what's going on in the city itself. You know, these guys, I'm not saying fearing for their lives here, but again, when you talk about going to Brazil, I think of the beautiful beaches, the scenery, the nice warm weather, walk down into the cities, have a nice dinner, bring your family. You don't get to go to Brazil often, okay? It's not like that. It is an absolute business trip, get in and get out, and let's be safe here. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, or I'm not trying to blow this thing up and say, you know, World War III's going over there, but they've been alerted. It's not the safest place to be right now as just, you know, walking down the street on your cell phone wearing some gold chains or some beautiful watches or something. So again, I understand the NFL trying to expand their brand. I mean, they already know they're global, but why not, you know, have a game in Brazil? They have 3 in London. They have one in Mexico. They have one last year in Germany. So again, they're expanding the globe. Before you know it, if Mr. Goodell has his way of it, they'll be playing 7 days a week, and there'll be NFL everywhere on 7 different streaming services, and it'll cost you, you know, $2,000-$3,000 a year versus just go get the damn Red Zone and watch your local stations. You'll get a game on ABC at 1 o'clock. You get a game on Fox at 4 o'clock, and then ESPN will cover the 8:30 game. But someone that had DirecTV since diapers finally cut the cable. I've had YouTube now for a couple of years. I absolutely love YouTube. Hey, YouTube, I'm here. We're here. East Coast Sports Investors, if you want us to promote YouTube. I'm kind of hooked on that on the Red Zone. Mr. Hansen does an amazing job. I am managing about 15 to 17 high-stakes fantasy football leagues this year. We got the waiver wire tonight. I was telling the best producer in the world, Mr. Noah Frank, got a lot of work to do today. Samaje Perine was not drafted early in the year. He's the number 2 back, the pass-catching back for the Chiefs, so I got to figure out what the price is to add him to my stable, because we know what pass catching backs can do in Kansas City. As CEH is on a month of personal leave, Kansas City, one of the best run organizations in the NFL. is paying for him. So we're hoping he gets right there. Don't rush back, CEH. You're young. You got a long, long, long way to go in your career. The Chiefs will be fine. Get yourself in line here. Get your physical, mental, spiritual upstairs all intact before you jump in to the gridiron there. And then, of course, on Sunday, the real fun begins. Patriots now 7.5-point underdogs at Cincinnati. Again, the potential train wreck there for the Circus Survivor and all the Survivor games. Pools there as we assume Cool Joe and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to score a ton of points. The Patriots defense is okay, by the way. They did very, very well defensively last year. Christian Gonzalez is healthy. But again, last year they only averaged 13.8 points a game. So you're going to need more than 13 points to beat Cool Joe there. So be interesting to see there. The nightcap is a must-watch TV as actually that's the Monday game. I'm getting confused here. Detroit hosting. Detroit is hosting the Rams, and I'm a big Puka fan. A little banged up there. I did move Cup up in some drafts there as well as the Lions, who I think is the number one team in the NFC, with a chip on their shoulder. They were right there, and I think they got a taste of it last year. And I really, really think that they're the team to beat in the NFC. There, I got the Eagles at 2. I do have the Packers at 3. I have San Francisco at 4 currently. They signed Trent Williams. They signed Brandon Ayuk. So they'll be all systems go there. But too much drama, too many injuries that they had throughout the OTAs and the camp there. So their window, I think, is closed. 4 of the last 5 years in the NFC Championship game, 2 Super Bowls, 2 0-2 now in the Super Bowl as they lost both times to Mr. Mahomes. Noah, remember we're just audio here as Tyler is joined us here and a little accident this morning, so he is kindly still joining us. But we were going to do it on the audio side. So, hey, Tyler, that eye issue is going to be great on the poker table, though. They don't know if you're winking when you got the pocket aces or not. So, should be interesting. But good friend and colleague, the one and only, Mr. Tyler Wyatt.
Yeah, thought I would go with the pirate patch, go with the eye patch. But yeah, freak accident on the driving range. Hopefully, a couple of days it'll be better. I'll get it checked out. Yeah, everything will be fine. Yeah, wearing one contact right now has kind of thrown me a little bit of a curveball. We'll persevere as we always do, JD.
Well, we couldn't be happier to have you back here. It's been a long time. As I said in the text, I want to get you on here more regularly. Your numbers are second to none when it comes to. I use power ranking, so if I have a number that I think is a little out of line, I have no problem reaching out to you to ask you what your numbers are and stuff like that. But before we get to the SEC, the Vols, I want to talk to you a little about poker. I usually go out in July to the World Series of Poker, and I couldn't make it out this year. Poker is, I want to say, almost bigger than ever again. Can you give us how the poker game is going and the poker boom is back, Tyler?
Poker is, yeah, it's as healthy as it's been maybe 2 or 3 years post Moneymaker. I think right now, poker, you have a number of entities that have kind of joined, not really joined together, but have joined the let's promote poker as much as we can, get poker in front of audiences. You have a lot of the the YouTube, in sports betting, you have a lot of the we'll say content creator touts or content creator gamblers. There's a number of really good YouTube poker guys right now. Wolfgang, really good. Brad Owen, really good. A number of those guys have done a great job in promoting poker, and it's what Poker Go has done with WSOP. There's just right now it's as good as it's been in terms of not only I think the product, but There was kind of always in the early mid 2000s we had Daniel, we had Phil, we had Chris Ferguson, we had Lederer, we had Ivy, obviously, we had a number of characters, and those guys have gotten older. They still play a lot, but there was that changing of the guard, so to speak, with who was going to be the guys that you could kind of, if you were a casual player or a rec player, you always had high stakes poker, and all these cash games would be streamed, or even when WSOP is streamed, there was always like a villain, or there was always a good guy, or a group of guys that you could root for. There was always a question of who was going to kind of follow those guys. Obviously, with Doyle passing, some of those legends are getting older, and we're going to have to usher in kind of a new, younger generation. A lot of people kind of, I think, pegged Tom Dwan as being that guy 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I don't want to say maybe he's fallen short. He's played so much in Macau. He's avoided the U.S. poker scene for the most part. He's becoming more active with Hustler and Ryan, some of the things that they're doing. But yeah, like the overall health of poker is as strong as I remember it being. I just turned 42 in August, and have been playing. Well, I guess I could say now since I was 18 on a fake ID. But like for the last 24 years, outside of the year after Money, that year poker was really good. There were a lot of players. Right now, I think it's as strong as going back to maybe that year after Moneymaker win, or maybe the first couple of years after he won. But yeah, I think right now, sky's the limit for poker. It's growing, and a number of new faces. You have a lot of some friends of mine that run some of these smaller tournament tours or run good poker series. They're making tournament poker a little more affordable. WSOP in Vegas has introduced some lower buy-in tournaments for those people to kind of get in there and experience it and see what it's about. You don't have to put up 10,000 like the old days for every event. But you have a lot of those tours that are coming up, and that's only going to help grow the game. I think the next 5 years it's maybe the most excited I've been since about year or two after Money. That was just grind your butt off. When he won that first year, you could literally sit down. You could play low stakes. You could play 1-2, 1-3 now is a common spread. Back in the day, 1-2, 2-5. You could sit and make a fortune in Tunica, in Vegas, in Atlantic City, in games in states that poker wasn't necessarily legal. That first year after Chris won, you could make 6 figures, and you didn't really have to do a whole lot of work. You just had to play pretty solid fundamental poker. There were so many new people. Now there are new people that are being introduced, but the new player in 2024 versus the new player in 2006, much more advanced, much tougher. Poker in general is a lot harder to beat now, I think, than it has ever been. But right now, the health overall, I think, is as strong as it's been in the last 20 years.
As I said, I make my yearly trip up to Vegas for the World Series of Poker, the main event. I love the 115, 116 degree heat. I love the walk from where I stay right across the street from Top Golf. I get a good 30-minute walk in to get up to the casino, to the Paris, and to go watch the live events. Good friends with Mr. Felipe Ramos from Brazil, who's a GG Poker ambassador. And so when you talk about the health, the growth, for the people in the States, Mr. Polk and the lodges now in Texas couldn't be more booming, of course, when it comes to poker. But GG Poker, I mean, I just wish it would be available someday in the States. I mean, it would make life so much easier, Tyler.
The next hurdle, I think, we got PASPA. That took, obviously, forever. I'm not sure how much longer we have to go before there's a federal, legislation overturned with poker being legal across the board. I would like to see it, obviously, at least make my home base in Knoxville, Tennessee, spend, probably 2.5 months-ish in Vegas every year, and probably about that somewhere else playing cards. So about half my time is spent on the road. I would love to be able to sit and play WSOP online from Tennessee. I don't, they are expanding, and they're doing everything that they can. Obviously, Michigan and Pennsylvania, some other states, have come on board. But yes, it would make things much easier for you, for me, and for millions of other people across the country if we could just open our computer and play on any site. It's unfortunately not the case right now. Maybe in 4, 5, 6 years, that's a different story. But yeah, the federal government is right now the enemy. Hopefully that changes. But right now, yeah, it's just going to be, there's still a couple of places that you can play online in other states where we live. But it would be nice to be able to get in there and battle with, guys that you see in May, June, and July in Vegas that you could just open up your computer from wherever and play. We'll get there one day. But yeah, I'm not going to complain too much right now. Compared to where poker was 5, 6, 7 years ago, better spot overall. So, I'll keep my mouth shut for a little while. But yeah, we're getting closer to making it legal for everyone. And, hopefully that's sooner than later.
SEC football bigger than ever. The addition of Texas, Oklahoma. Texas considered one of the teams to obviously beat this year. We saw Georgia just put an absolute ass whooping on Dabo Sweeney and the Tigers there of Clemson. And then the Tennessee Vols, Big Joe, Bazooka Joe, we call him back east here now, third string quarterback for the Patriots. The guy literally can throw it out of the building, and I'm not exaggerating there. He is something to be... he's must-watch TV. Now, hopefully we won't get to him. Tyler, thoughts on the SEC? Is it Georgia's world? Tennessee travels to NC State. I know the world's on Tennessee State. I've talked to a lot of sharps that really lean in on the NC State line, NC State underdog line there. It reminds me of when Notre Dame came in early last year. Of course, I was on the NC State side, and Notre Dame run roughshod out of it. But SEC, Georgia, Vols, what are you seeing, let's just say, after week 1?
Yeah, it's clearly Georgia, and then you could maybe make a case that Texas belongs, in that conversation with Georgia. To me, it's 1, and then there's a considerable gap before you get to anyone else. In my power rating, Georgia is after updating it for this week, 3.5 points better than the number 2 team in my power rating, neutral. So, we're high on Georgia. I live in Tennessee. I'm not involved. I went to UT, but I'm a diehard Kentucky fan. So, yeah, it's Georgia. I think small gap, Texas. And then you have a group of, probably 4 or 5 teams that you could make a case deserve to be number 3. Tennessee, I think, is in that conversation. I'm not sure that you would have them 3. I have them 5th right now in my SEC power rankings. But it's a Georgia team right now that in that first half against Clemson, a lot of people, watched that game and said, "Oh, it's 6-0. What is Georgia doing?" In that second half, they looked like they were ready to play a national championship game. They are, I think, the team that you look at in the SEC. Texas, really, really good. Arch Manning getting reps in week 1 was a good thing. Quinn Ewers' health has been the one thing that you look at in Texas, and you kind of make, well, what happens if Ewers goes down is, what happens to that Texas team. Texas defense over the last couple of years has been an issue, and week 1, obviously, they weren't really tested. But it's an SEC team or an SEC conference that, you can make a case that half of the 12 teams in the playoff are out of the Southeastern Conference. So, the health of the conference is as good as it's ever been. The bottom tier, is the Vanderbilt team who, by and large, the last 3 or 4 years has just been a doormat no matter who they've played. Take out a pretty good Virginia Tech team, not, not a ACC champion conversation type of Virginia Tech team, but a team that I thought was, going to be okay. Vanderbilt, dominated that game for most of it, and then Virginia Tech kind of makes a rally there at the end, and Vandy, holds on. Big win. If you had Vandy over season wins, you're probably really happy there. We didn't, but it's a conference from top to bottom that's as strong as it's ever been. Obviously, aided by Texas and Oklahoma. You have 2 top 15 teams that come into the conference. Obviously, adds nothing but strength. But when you look down at the bottom of the SEC, even some of those teams like Kentucky, like Vanderbilt, if you look to the West, Mississippi State, those aren't easy outs if you're another conference. The SEC right now, alongside the Big Ten, obviously, adding Oregon and adding Southern Cal, these two conferences. My question is, there's a lot of talk of going from 12 playoff teams to 16 playoff teams. How long before the SEC, the Big Ten, maybe the Big 12, and some of the ACC teams get together, and they just have a conversation that says, we don't need the NCAA, we don't need anyone. We can break off into a group of 48 or 64, negotiate our own TV deals, and they just go out on their own. How far are we away from that conversation? More so than maybe expanding to 16 teams. But yeah, in terms of college football, the SEC obviously for the last 15, 20 years has been kind of the cream of the crop. Big Ten now, I think, as close as ever probably. But the health of college football right now at the top, really, really good. But yeah, the SEC week 1, big surprise there with Vanderbilt. Not much of a surprise with Georgia, and then the rest of the conference I think did what most expected. LSU and that game, I think there's a lot of people that expected Brian Kelly to get a win in week 1. I was not on that side. I didn't play the other side. I had a number that was about a point off of market, but we didn't play either side there. But yeah, I think week 1 outside of Vanderbilt, everything I think went about as expected. Maybe outside of the LSU game.
The sports books nowadays have the game of the years. They have these spreads out for months in advance. The look ahead line was Texas -3.5 at Michigan this Saturday. It's been steamed up to 7.5, 8 points. What was your actual initial number, and then after what you saw in week 1, what is your number right now?
Initial number was 2.8 neutral. Now adjusted, I have Texas 5.4 neutral. So 2.4 points is what I have right now for Michigan at home. So I have Texas landed on a perfectly round 3. So little off of market there. I kind of say subjectively and objectively. Like if I don't look at the model and I just think about Texas and Michigan, I don't see there's a way that Michigan wins this game. But when I look at the numbers and kind of what my model spits out, it says that the game should be closer than expected. It was an ugly week 1 performance by Michigan. If you looked at just the final score, you say, 30-10 number, it lands right around the number. That game was closer, I think, than the score indicated. First half particularly, but that was a game 1 or 2 plays go the other way for Fresno State, and it's a completely different game. Obviously Texas in week 1, easy winner against a team that they were monster favorite over. Tough place to play. Obviously we don't have to have a conversation about that. The big house, Texas is used to playing in pretty tough environments. They better be used to it now that they're in the SEC. This season won't get any easier after Michigan. But yeah, just looking at what I saw in week 1, it's a Michigan team that's going to have to take a pretty big leap forward if they don't want to, start out the season 1-1. That stadium will be rocking. Obviously, noon kick. I'm not sure who that helps. Is it a big deal for Texas to be kicking off at 11 o'clock? They play not a lot. They play a handful of 11 o'clock games already, so I don't think the time's going to be an issue. But yeah, that number at 7.5. Obviously, my number is about half of that. So I'll take Michigan in 7.5 based on the model. And well, there's a lot of bullets that we fire each week. So if that's one that we miss, it's okay. First couple of weeks are kind of about feeling out teams, adjusting, making kind of adjustments on the fly. You got a lot of moving parts, obviously, with personnel and things like that. But yeah, that number being steamed doesn't surprise me if I'm trying to, if I just think about it without my model. When I look at the model, it's a bit surprising that I'm, 4 points short of where the market is. But I was 8 points off of the market with Maryland and UConn. I had that one 29.5 last week. So, sometimes when you throw all the crap against the wall, some of the stuff that sticks proves that that what you're talking about. So obviously it's a long season. So, but yeah, first instinct, too many. That's that number is probably about right. Without looking at my model, I take into consideration all the numbers and stuff. A little bit of a surprise, but maybe more surprising is the total 42.5. Defensively, Michigan's been really good, obviously, over the last couple of seasons. Texas offensively has been really good. Michigan offensively, obviously, last season, when you have an entire half where you don't throw a pass, there's some question marks. Obviously, McCarthy gone now, different personnel, but pretty low total there. When you have a road dog coming in north of a touchdown and the total's, right at 6 touchdowns, I thought that should have been a little bit higher. I have 46, almost 47 projected, so I'll play over 40. I'll look to see if there's a 42 anywhere available, and play that 42.5. I think the number's still good. So the play for me right now, at least based on the model, will be Michigan plus and over 42.5.
Got about 35 seconds, Tyler. Anything in tow right now that all the watchers and listeners can take a look at for this weekend in college, or anything you have particularly?
Our adjusted, we're going against a lot of the sharps in that NC State game. Our number 10.1 neutral. Charlotte, is it a neutral game? Tennessee fan, I can vouch for about 3,000 people I know that are going to be in Charlotte. So there's going to, that stadium should be about 50-50. I don't think there'll be much of a home field there for NC State. So we played that one at 4.5 up in French Lick on Sunday. So got a good price there before the move, like that. And then MTSU and Ole Miss, market at 41. Our game number is 47.5, rounded 47.3. So that number a bit off from market. And then another game, that South Florida and Alabama rematch of last year. Alabama struggled for nearly 4 quarters. It was a really bad weather game last season. 31, most books right now looks like a total of 63.5. We have the dog again. We have 26.5 on that one. So played South Florida plus 31. Big total 62 or 63.5 right now. Most books looks like should be a pretty good offensive game. Milroe looked really, really good. I was wondering how his performance against Western Kentucky, how much Kalen DeBoer would impact the passing game. He looked really, really good on both sides, running the football and throwing the football. If he takes a step forward, and right now Alabama is 3 in our power ratings. They leapfrogged Ohio State. I have Alabama is 2 right now. Right now, 4.2 points behind Georgia in that 2 spot. It's an Alabama team. I really, really like Kalen DeBoer. I think he is a phenomenal coach. I think he will be able to. I think week 2, week 3, you'll see some more improvement from Milroe, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is an Alabama win total. We hadn't seen a win total at Alabama south of 10.5, I think, since Saban took the job. 9.5 floating around all offseason. This is a 10-win Alabama team. Wouldn't surprise me at all if their lone loss, came to Georgia. But I think this is absolutely a 10 or 11-win team. I think that soars over their 9.5. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they upset Georgia, but this is an undefeated Alabama team. A lot of teams people, I should say, around the country talking about Alabama being a team that maybe gets left out of the playoff. I'm on the other side. I think this is going to be an Alabama team that is well into the playoff and absolutely deserving of some national champion future money.
The one and only Tyler Wyatt. Go on over to Twitter. Go follow him at Tyler Wyatt Bets and, of course, at Odds Culture. Tyler, we couldn't thank you enough. Stay backstage. I want to catch up with you for a couple seconds. Thank you so much as well for coming on. With the little eye issue, we can't thank you enough, sir.
Yeah, no. Hey, I'm used to playing injured. You get older, it's just part of life. If I can avoid the freak injuries, I'll be okay though.
All right, the one and only Tyler Wyatt. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to do a quick recap and send everyone along.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with the heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher.
Great show again this morning. Shout out to Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer at Sports Grid, our tea time wager guy. No golf this week or next week. We'll be circling back on 3 Wednesdays from now to talk golf and NFL and contests there as well. Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets at Odds Culture. Talking some SEC, some power rankings. His numbers are second to none. Please go follow him as well. Special thanks, as always, to the best producer in the house, Mr. Noah Frank. What we got here going on the rest of the day, very simply, is this. 5 p.m., the closing bell with myself and Riley Magnuson. At 6:15, in the batter's box with Scotty Webb. Can't thank you guys enough. If you came in late, head on over to our YouTube station at East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Tell a friend.